The refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so it's all good.
3 defenders smashed into Caitlin Clark at mid-court. The whistle froze in the ref's mouth, and 15,000 voices inside Seattle's Climate Pledge Arena morphed from electric excitement to open outrage. In the 6 seconds that followed, #FreeCaitlin shot to the top of every trending feed, splicing slow-motion replays with emojis that looked more like courtroom exhibits than fan reactions. A rookie on a rookie contract had just become the flashpoint of a billion-dollar debate. If the league's brightest spotlight can be dimmed by one swallowed whistle, what does it say about the bulb? Indiana had limped into the Pacific Northwest, battered by a 1-4 skid, 2 red-eye flights, and exactly 0 favors from the schedule maker. Clark's left quad was still mummified beneath layers of tape, and her usually velvet-smooth jumper had clang-textured fatigue written all over it. On the opposite bench perched a Storm squad giddy from a 4-game tear and convinced that their wing, Gabby Williams, represented the living, breathing prototype of the modern small forward.
You're getting poked in the eye and then shoved to the floor, and Marina Mayberry doesn't even get thrown out of the game. It's basically open season on Caitlin Clark, and the special whistle that she supposedly gets goes in the other direction. Flagrantly so. They gotta put it to an end. I mean, she's the most valuable player.
The pregame chatter from Seattle's side bordered on theatrical. She locks up our best players at practice. Why would Caitlin be any different? Somewhere, Clark heard it. Lexi Hull dove across the hardwood like she was blocking a soccer penalty. Gabby Williams pounced like a linebacker, and bodies smeared a stripe of squeak marks all the way to the baseline. The loose ball ricocheted. Clark knifed between 2 jerseys, and her ponytail snapped forward as she fired a no-look bullet that whistled an inch behind Aaliyah Boston's outstretched fingers. A turnover? Technically, yes. A tone setter? Absolutely. In less than 30 seconds, Seattle understood that every inch of the court, from logo to laneway, was about to turn into Clark's chessboard. Barely a minute later, the forearm shiver arrived.
WNBA. Do you realize that what you have in Caitlin Clark is a once-in-a-generation talent? She was massively successful in college, and that's transcended into the WNBA, where she's leaps and bounds above pretty much most every player there. You're allowing her to get beat.
Clark tumbled onto her taped leg, popped up, and pivoted toward the baseline official with a stare that could singe varnish. Nothing. No whistle, no discussion. She opened her mouth to protest, remembered the fine print in the rulebook, and closed it in the same breath. The league's technical foul threshold hovers at 7. Clark already owned 5. 2 more, and the W would sideline its most magnetic draw for a full game. An automatic suspension, as merciless as it is blunt. Even the TV commentary booth went momentarily mute, as if nobody wanted to be first to shout that the Emperor wore no stripes. Then came the replay package. Hip checks in Chicago, elbows in Phoenix.
Take all media questions today, but we're just supposed to read from a script, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. On behalf of my teammates and every member of our union, I want to be very clear that we remain committed to negotiating the next CBA with the league and the teams in good faith and privately, but we do want
that infamous clothesline in Dallas, all stitched into a grim montage illustrating how freedom of movement has been redefined this season. It's free, provided your last name isn't Clark. What made every non-call sting wasn't just the physical toll, it was the financial absurdity swirling around the 23-year-old. She is the lone WNBA player averaging at least 15 points, 5 boards, and 5 assists, yet her guaranteed salary sits at $78,000. less than the game night DJ spinning halftime beats. Independent analysts estimate her presence alone could pump nearly $1 billion into league and partner revenue by the end of 2025.
League in the most literal sense. And somehow she gets the opposite of superstar treatment. And that's what you saw with the Connecticut Sun and Indiana Fever. The Fever won the game. Of course they won the game. Of course they won the game. And they're better. All right, enough is enough.
Ticket surges, jersey sellouts, blockbuster streaming numbers, an international bump so sharp that 3 Chinese networks now pick up Fever games on delay just to satisfy a midnight demand for logo range 3s. On paper, endorsements should balance the ledger. Nike famously inked her to an 8-year, $28 million pact in April, but the company hasn't launched her signature shoe. Samples leak online, Clark once sketches pepper sneaker blogs, yet store shelves remain empty. Fans have resorted to customizing white Air Force Ones with homemade yellow swooshes and the number 22 scribbled in Sharpie. A cottage industry built on corporate procrastination. Every time Clark tweaks an ankle, marketers panic that a sneaker which doesn't exist might already be costing them millions. Drama seldom confines itself to the court. Veteran scorer Dewana Bonner, a 6-time All-Star, lost her starting spot during the Fever slide and quietly requested a buyout. Within 48 hours, she was out the door, prompting hot take canon Dave Portnoy to label her beyond useless on his podcast. Clark lost a future Hall of Fame mentor, but gained clarity. The voice in that locker room, for better or worse, now belonged to her. The inner circle tightened to Lexi Hull, whose defensive intensity registers somewhere between caffeinated and feral, and Sophie Cunningham, a 6'1" battery pack of elbows, floor burns, and unwavering loyalty. Fever Twitter christened the trio Tres Leches after the dessert. 3 distinct layers, equally sweet, deceptively heavy. The scoreboard sagged under Seattle's free throw parade. Touch foul here, continuation there, 3 shots on what looked suspiciously like a side out. Meanwhile, Clark absorbed another bump, rolled her eyes skyward, then bit down on her lips so hard teammates wondered if she'd draw blood. The Storm lead ballooned to 16. Climate Pledge Arena vibrated with the early smugness of a crowd convinced tonight's highlight reel would be as one-sided as a post-game edit on home team Instagram. From the national media came a split verdict. Stephen A. Smith thundered that jealousy among veteran stars was fueling the abuse. They don't like that she gets all the camera love, so they're giving her the business. Others labeled the officiating inconsistencies growing pains, pairing corporate platitudes with B-roll of bruises, as if the footage itself contradicted the script. Mid-third. Clark curled off a double screen so high it might have registered under the arena's Wi-Fi network, planted 2 feet nearly on the center court emblem, and launched a meteor. The ball's arc stretched long enough for a dozen cell phones to rise and record. Net. Timeout Seattle. The lead shrank to a nervous 9. The next possession, she skipped it past to Hull, who cooked a corner 3 so pure the nylon snapped back into place like it feared repercussions. Sophie Cunningham slid across the paint on defense and pried a rebound loose with both hands, screamed, "Mine!" above the roar, and shoveled an outlet to Clark. 1 dribble, bounce pass alley-oop, Boston hammer time. 14 unanswered points in 93 seconds tipped the building upside down. Back home in Indiana, Fever faithful flocked to sports bars throwing impromptu watch parties. ESPN cut into its soccer highlight loop to air the logo shot 3 times in 50 minutes. B-list celebrities retweeted the clip with popcorn gifs. A-listers DM ticket reps. The conversation shifted from, "Is she forcing shots?" to, "Did we just witness the moment the season flipped?" Mid-third. Clark curled off a double screen so high it might have registered under the arena's Wi-Fi network, planted 2 feet nearly on the center court emblem, and launched a meteor. The ball's arc stretched long enough for a dozen cell phones to rise and record. Net. Timeout, Seattle. The lead shrank to a nervous 9. The next possession, she skipped it past a Hull, who cooked a corner 3 so pure the nylon snapped back into place like it feared repercussions. Sophie Cunningham slid across the paint on defense and pried a rebound loose with both hands, screamed, "Mine!" above the roar, and shoveled an outlet to Clark. One dribble, bounce pass alley-oop, Boston hammer time. 14 unanswered points in 93 seconds tipped the building upside down. Back home in Indiana, Fever faithful flocked to sports bars throwing impromptu watch parties. ESPN cut into its soccer highlight loop to air the logo shot 3 times in 50 minutes. B-list celebrities retweeted the clip with popcorn gifts. A-listers DM ticket reps. The conversation shifted from, "Is she forcing shots?" to, "Did we just witness the moment the season flipped?" Momentum travels at fiber optic speed. Within 5 minutes, X and TikTok feeds were dueling battlefields. One camp curated medleys of Clark's best assists with captions like, "Caitlin 2.0, the playmaker era." The other compiled supercuts of questionable no-calls, overlaying circus music and tagging league officials. Nike's own account posted a cryptic black square with her jersey number in white font and the words, "Coming soon." It racked up 300,000 likes in an hour and 0 details, fueling fresh conspiracies about an accelerated shoe launch. Fast forward to 1:47 left in regulation. Clark drove the left lane. A help defender slid late, bodies collided midair. The ball careened into press row seats. Clark hammered the stanchion with an open palm, loud enough for courtside mics to pick up the echo. The referee's hand grazed his whistle, then changed course, grabbing the ball instead. Lexi Hull spun toward Clark, arms extended like a traffic cop, steering her star away from self-destruction. Fever head coach Stephanie White never left the coach's box but mouthed a single syllable, "Breathe." Next play down, Clark read Williams's dribble as if the scouting report scrolled on her retinas, poked the ball loose, chased it down, and gift-wrapped a transition triple to Cunningham. Indiana 87, Seattle 84. The Storm answered with a frantic runner. Clark splashed 2 free throws. Cunningham drew a charge that sent the home crowd into stunned silence. With 5 ticks remaining, Indiana up 3, Seattle advanced the ball. Williams bobbled the inbounds, Hull tied her up, and the possession arrow pointed red. Ball game. Clark's final line read like glitch mode realism. 19 points, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, 5 fouls, 1 technical, countless dented reputations. She left the floor grinning, slapping palms with traveling Fever fans who had flown the full width of the country for this very baptism of fire. Yet inside that smile lived mathematics. 2 technical fouls remain in the queue, and the playoff push is tightening like a vice. Every whistle from here on out isn't just a sound, it's a stock market bell for the business of women's basketball. By dawn, syndicated radio debated emergency rule changes. Should the W adopt an NBA-style review for flagrant non-calls? Talk show producers booked former refs to decode body language, lip-read Clark's restrained frustrations, and measure whether unconscious bias can exist in the presence of 20 HD cameras. Somewhere at Nike headquarters, a marketing director turned a whiteboard into a mind map titled Shoes, Suspension, and Social Currency. Meanwhile, the Fever charter touched down in Indianapolis to find 200 fans waiting at the gate, holding homemade signs that read, "Let her cook and pay her like it." Cunningham double-tapped every sign on her way to the baggage carousel. Hull flashed the kind of tired grin that doubles as free therapy. Clark wore earbuds, hoodie up, still processing the cinematic reel playing behind her eyes. 3 bodies at half court. 0 whistles. 1 explosion of destiny. Upcoming on the schedule, a back-to-back against the Liberty and the Aces, two franchises with the firepower to punish any lapse in composure and the star wattage to amplify every collision. Clark will tip off against Sabrina Ionescu on National Network TV, then share the floor with Asia Wilson 24 hours later. Simple arithmetic says she'll endure at least a dozen hard hedges, 6 blindside bumps, and, history suggests, 1 or 2 whistles that arrive fashionably late, if at all. How she rides that razor edge between ferocity and frustration may decide not just Indiana's playoff seed, but the WNBA's summer ratings curve.